So good morning, everybody. We are back for another episode of Clarity TV. And today I have the honor to introduce you to Kitty Waters. Kitty has a mission to empower people to do their Dharma and create the life of their dreams. She's very much in the purpose conversation, which is kind of what we're going to have today, right? And she's in the conversation of inspiring people to look inside and discover their soul's calling. She's a co-creator of the Network for Transformational Leaders, a nonprofit and peer group for people doing transformative and transformational work. Kitty's life has gone full circle after having a nervous breakdown in her 20s, suffering from depression, drug and alcohol abuse. This dissatisfaction and disconnection from life led her down the personal development route. Kitty has a 20-year background in business, having built departments and companies from scratch. She was a shareholder in a James Cann Recruitment firm, Dragon's Den, and business, which sold for $52 million in 2015. She's also a fully trained Reiki master, NLP practitioner, and Kitty's Do Your Dharma course has helped 40 men and women let go of their limiting beliefs, unlock their greatest potential, and create the life of their dreams. Kitty launched Kitty Talks in the spring of 2017. Her coaching and the Kitty Talks podcast demystifies Dharma for people and makes it clear and understandable. By sharing real-life people's stories and how they're following their bliss in their own lives, Kitty Talks' mission is to inspire a generation of change makers to follow their passion and purpose and make a difference in our planet. So welcome, Kitty. That was a long introduction, but I wanted to read the whole thing. I was looking at making it shorter. I was like, no, I want it all.
There you go. That's my life in a nutshell.
Yeah, big nut. So welcome. Let me ask you first question, and you already kind of in the introduction already kind of plants the seed for this question, is that what is something you've overcome and that kind of marked the path of the journey of your life?
Oh, well, the biggest thing I would say I'd overcome is chronic depression that I suffered with for 10 years. It was what I call an inherited learned behavior. We had family patterning. So I've got a history of bipolar, suicides, mental institutions, lithium, all sorts of crazy stuff in my family that I discovered later in my life. And I had very much learned the behavior around how I looked at life and how I responded to life. And at the age of 22, I had a nervous breakdown. And I didn't really understand why. And I carried on with my old habits, which was covering up my emotions with drinking and eventually getting into using cocaine. So my 20s were turbulent, to say the least. And I kind of fluctuated around or through my life kind of thinking I should have it all because I had the trappings of success. I was very successful in a career. I worked in the city. I worked in a very male-dominated environment, and I was doing very well. I was sort of the second highest performer in the business. So consequently, I earned good money, but I had this dark secret that I was really miserable and unhappy. And at times, I was floating up out of my body. For anybody that's suffered with, chronic depression, it's a miserable place to be, and you don't really understand it. And a spiritual awakening in my late 20s. Woke me up really, and you mentioned in the bio that I kind of went down the personal development rabbit hole of and it was great because it now it enables me to really understand where people are at and help them move through it, because I've moved through it myself. And so my job now is I see myself as a catalyst, because so many people, like 1 in 4 people, and I think that's too low, are suffering with depression. And I actually think that everybody will suffer at some stage in their lives. And actually, it sounds like a big claim, but the things I teach now stop us, would ever stop you being in that place. So it's why I'm very passionate about my mission, because I know it can serve and help so many people.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, because, a lot of people, I love asking this question because, we all have something we've overcome. And typically in these interviews, what happens is people share what they've overcome, and then they share the wonderful work they're doing now. But there is a bridge, and this is where I'm curious about, because there's something there, and the way I want to ask it is what has been there with you that is a common denominator, and that I suspect is something that you unearthed consciously or unconsciously and became the way out of your depression, because many people can't. Many people really are aware of their situation, are aware of their addiction or their depression, and they have a willing, but they never do. So what is it that helped you go from telling this story to telling that story?
I think if you ask anybody who's suffering with chronic depression, anxiety, or illness, if they're living their dream life and if they feel deep down that this was the life for them, I'm pretty sure that they would say no. Mm-hmm. And all of us have an inner, what I call an inner satnav. And I had ignored my inner satnav for a very long time. And you asked me how I went from A to B. I started to listen to my inner satnav. So what I mean by that is I actually believe it's my higher connection, mm-hmm. you know, my soul. And I teach people to live in alignment with their soul now because, you know, I do believe we came here to evolve mm-hmm. as individuals, as human beings. And the famous expression is evolve or repeat. And I prefer to revolve than repeat. Thank you.
Get to the next chapter.
But most of us are asleep. You know, we kind of come in and we're born into a world that we just accept. It's like a goldfish in a tank. You don't look any past what you're told. You know, the news tells you a certain thing. Your peers, your teachers, your parents even tell you that this world is something that you're supposed to believe in. And I remember deep down as a child, always thinking that I was here to do something big, and always thinking I was a bit different, and always thinking there had to be more than life than I could see. And then I kind of forgot about that, and I went into this world that we lived in, and I felt it deep down, and I knew something was off. And if you're listening to this interview and you know something's off, and if you're really true to yourself, that career you're in, that job you're in, you know it's not right for you, but you don't know how to move, and you're scared, and there's change and you don't know how to address it, then this interview will be very enlightening. And my work probably would be really interesting, because we are our own gurus, right? Nobody knows our lives and what is right for us better than ourselves. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, we have been conditioned to take the safe path. Mm-hmm. Go to school, get a good education, get a good job, go into the system, pay taxes. We haven't been taught, what's your passion? What is it you truly want to do in life? How can you make a difference? How can you change the world with what you're doing? What is it that you truly lights you up? You know, Joe, yeah.
Yeah, and so what I'm hearing is like that thing that was dormant but it woke up is this hunger and this knowing. I mean, from a very young age, there was a knowing of your role in this world, even though you had no clue what that meant or what it looked like. But there was a knowing that kind of started surfacing when you went to the deepest of your depression, probably, right? And that, I think that's when, you know, that started waking up and you know, and led you in this process. Go ahead.
I love it, because I think it's so true. It's so true what you're saying, Dolores. And I think, you know, the question to ask yourself is your life what you want to be representing you? And how do you feel about your life? Because if there's any element of disappointment, or if there's any element of, this is not what I thought I signed up for, it's because we're off the path. We're off track. Yeah.
Of the line. So let's talk about your work. And, you know, you talk about Dharma. I personally have read about Dharma, experienced Dharma. I have a sister-in-law who's a Lama. And so it's like, but for the most part, I think this is where I want to get really curious with you, Kitty, is that there is a disconnect in a lot of people that talk about Dharma and teach from that perspective, because they make it too sophisticated for us to really walk our Dharma or live our Dharma, right? And so let's start at the very beginning, as Julie Andrews would say. What the heck is Dharma?
Well, one of my gifts that I've come to understand is one of my gifts is making big concepts really simple. So we're gonna make it really, really tangible for people. So the word Dharma is used in 18 different Indian languages, but when I refer to the word Dharma, I talk about the meaning from the Vedic texts. So the simplest way to describe the Vedas would be like the Indian equivalent of the Bible. It's the simple, and it's very ancient text that information was passed down to kings and queens, and essentially the upper echelons of society were taught everybody has a dharma, everybody has a purpose. And now the actual literal kind of translation is the right path of action, the right path of action for the individual and humanity at the same time. And what the Vedas talk about is the fact that there's 7.5 billion people on the planet, but there's only one you. Mm-hmm. And your job in your lifetime is to truly understand who you are, what you love, what you're passionate about, and then go and do that. Mm-hmm. And the way the Vedas talk about it is they say that your passions are your breadcrumbs to the correct path in life. Mm-hmm. So your passions plus your unique gifts, because we're all uniquely gifted in some shape or form. We're taught to conform. We're taught if we're not, if we're not very clever, then we're nothing. But actually, it's totally wrong. Everybody has a gift. Mm-hmm. So your passions plus your unique gifts, when you utilize those, doing something that is helpful and there is a social need element to it, to the planet, you come alive. So not only is this about us helping, serving, and making the world a better place, the brilliant thing is when you uncover this stuff, you live longer, you're happier, you're healthier, and you know how I've been talking about this sense of fulfillment where you know when you're off track, right? Well, the good thing is when we start to do our Dharma, we are on track and we feel it because it's so rewarding, and you just can't buy that feeling.
And if you combine that to energy, if you want, when I elevate a little bit to energy, is that it almost feels of purpose. I mean, I've done my own journey on that path and found my, breaking point, and we had to reshape and literally started my business on my gift, and feels incredibly uncomfortable because how can I charge for something I would do for free all day long? And actually, I ask that question to my clients all the time. They say, what should be my niche? I said, what would you do for free all day long? And the first reaction they say is like, I don't want to work for free. Trust me, you won't. But you'll feel like you're not working. But so it feels like almost like when you align yourself, you align with the energy of and the path that you're kind of called to play in the world. And it's almost like the floods of the universe just open. And just magic happens. Is that true for you? Is that true for the work that you do?
I think that's a really beautiful description. And what I'd like to do is give some context why that happens for people listening. Thank you. So if you're sitting listening to this thinking, what a load of rubbish, follow your bliss, do this. Well, effectively how it works is when we do what we love, energy, right? We resonate at a higher level because emotions have a frequency. So when I was depressed and I was disconnected, you say to people, oh my God, you look so down, because your frequency is down. You can tell the person is disconnected. You can tell that they're withdrawn, they're heavy, they're carrying other people's emotional baggage. When you're doing your Dharma, when you're doing your passion, when you, like you said, you're doing something that is so natural to you that it doesn't feel like work, you could do it all day long. You're energized. Think about people talking about how when they're basketball players and they're in this flow state, or they're tennis players, or me doing this, like I love doing this, We
do coffee all day long, which we do.
But of course, that's because it's part of our natural gifts. And we do have a problem recognizing it because it comes so naturally to us. We assume that everybody can do what we can do. And of course, that's not the case. Mm-hmm. But effectively, you become super conductive. So I always like to describe the fact that we're like a radio, okay? And you have to tune yourself to what you want in life. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing what you're passionate about, and if you're resonating full of energy and vibrancy, people are literally pulled in to that. They feel it energetically, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, but they want to be around that because it's magnetizing. And so what I see time and time again in my Do Your Dharma course is once we get people into alignment, once they understand their gifts, what they're truly good at, they have created a vision for their life, and they start to take the steps towards that, amazing who shows up. The right people show up at the right time, and they find that they have the synchronicities happening, and they start to get into this beautiful flow state, which is how we should live life. We shouldn't have to push and shove and control, and we should just enjoy ourselves.
I mean, maybe I'm confused, but the Dalai Lama says, our role is to be like our biggest responsibility in this world is to find our happy, like tune our radio to ultimate happiness and joy, and let everything else flows. Is that true?
I would love, I think that's a great idea. But I think that I'd love what the Dalai Lama says. And there's different states of being. You might find that somebody is happy, but they feel stuck because they don't necessarily have a vision. And I think one of the things that's really important that we understand is that we are powerful creators. We are more powerful as human beings than we have ever been taught. The average man is using about 5% of his brain capacity. So once we start to get on what I call our spiritual path, because what I'm describing is a spiritual path. It's the hero's journey,
Mm-hmm.
Once we start to get on that path, there will be tests, you think about Star Wars and all the films that have been based on the hero's journey, but being true to ourselves and really going after what we want in life will pay dividends. And the thing that I think is crucial for your audience to know is that quite often we might know the next step, and we might know where we want to go, but we don't know how we're going to get there. And what tends to happen is people don't tend to then take the next step because they're a bit scared. They're a bit fearful. They're like, I want to be a speaker. Like you might have people listening, TEDx speaker, or I might want to do this, or I might want to be an author. And they can't see how they're going to get from A to B. So they don't necessarily do anything. But the Vedic texts talk about our path being unveiled to us when we have the courage to take the action. So in my own journey, I have discovered that the next thing I want to do, so I will always listen to myself and say, well, what's the next thing I need to do? And I do that thing. And as I do that thing, the next piece of the puzzle, it comes.
Absolutely. I use a metaphor, and if it serves you, that at night we drive at 60 miles per hour with just the light of our car, the headlight, right? And we have this knowing and this trusting that there was going to be a road, 2 minutes beyond our headlights. And we don't slow down, we go pretty fast. And I feel like I completely resonate with what you just said, because especially in the world of personal development or transformation or even entrepreneurship, heck, we don't know what we're doing. None of us do. We just do the next step and trust that it will be revealed.
Great analogy. I might have to borrow that one. I like that.
Go ahead. Yeah, feel free to borrow it or to share it. I like to make things very, very, very visual. So tell me about, and you kind of started this conversation of, if I don't know what I'm doing, I'm not going to take action, right? What are some myths in following our Dharma, or some myths or misconceptions or miseducation that gets in the way for us to really embrace our personal dharmas?
One of the things I always talk about with my students is following their highest excitement. So this comes from sort of metaphysical terms, and it's all about when you follow your highest excitement, you are literally walking the optimal path in life. So when you follow your highest excitement to the best of your ability with no expectation on the outcome, so therefore you're just literally enjoying yourself. Like, what's the most exciting thing for me to do next? Okay. And there's no expectation or attachment to what you think that thing is going to give you. And you keep showing up like that. You keep showing, as I said, you are super, super conductive. And so it's not, I don't know if you've seen on Instagram, they have those like memes where they show what we think is going to happen and actually what happens, because you're like, because that's the other thing I think we have to have the faith that the road has the ultimate, it knows where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
You to use your car analogy, right? We're on this road, we're on our spiritual path. We just have to trust that, say there's a sharp corner and we go off track, that actually there is some divine intelligence keeping us on the
right track that we were supposed to. Yeah. And I mean, and unfortunately nowadays, you know, I've been driving long enough that I used to drive without a GPS. And I remember, not always, but many times, like, I remember I have clear memories of getting lost and enjoying it. Which we don't get lost anymore when we drive with a GPS, right? Because it's just so clear. And I think there's that analogy also works here, is that sometimes you hire someone and say, you do this, do not do anything but this. And in that path marked by somebody else, whether it's your parent, your teacher, or your boss, there is no capacity to getting lost and for the magic to unveil. So I love this process. What you're talking about is this, you know, trust, I think, is one of the key ingredients for us to allow our Dharma to evolve.
And belief.
And believe.
Because
believe in ourselves, or believe both, I guess.
Yeah, because I think what we believe we create, you know, it's very important. Like, I call it the machine of existence. So the machine of existence will work either way. Like, we're going to use your car analogy. You know, you could have a drunk driver driving a car, right? How is that person going to drive that car? Terribly. Now, you could have an exemplary driver driving the car. And so imagine the car is the machine of existence. If you are feeding the machine of existence negativity, negative thoughts that you can't do something, that you're not good enough, okay, then the world is listening, the universe is listening, that car is listening, you're driving that car badly, okay? So if you can turn that and say, actually, I truly believe that I can create my heaven, my Dharma, my heaven on earth. And the brilliant thing about it is that what you see is, when you have the courage to take that path, is you will get the confirmation that you're on the right path. As we said, you know, so you start to believe in the concept more. You're a self-perpetuating.
Yeah. And it works on the other side as well. Like the negative.
Yes, of course, yeah.
I mean, it just self-perpetuates the belief. So let me ask you something, Kitty. What are you most excited coming up for you in the next 12 months?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm being called to take my Dharma course to the next level. So I'm just about to embark on launching that again. That's going to be in October. We do something called the Follow Your Highest Excitement Challenge. And I love to sort of take spiritual principles and make them really simple and usable in everyday life. So we have hundreds of people doing that challenge, which is really good fun. And, you know, all of them can't believe how happy and buoyant and amazing they feel in such a short space of time. So that's very exciting, because I think that energetically we're being really supported in our dharmas at the moment, and I feel like I'm being called up to sort of really take this to a bigger level. Mm-hmm. So that's something that's very exciting that's happening at the moment. Yeah, that's kind of taking up a lot of my time.
Yeah, I guess that's a big, you know, leading hundreds of people to find their Dharma, live in their heaven on earth. That's, you know, I think that's enough. So let me ask you a question. We're building the Clarity TV library. So what is a book we must all read?
Oh, good question. What is the book we must all read? God, I'm staring at my bookshelf now, and I've got hundreds and thousands of books. I'm trying to think of one that would be in an alignment to what I'm talking about. But the book that's coming up for me is something different. It's a book by Sanyan Roman, and it's called Spiritual Growth. And it's just it was a very pivotal book for me, and that's the one that's popping out for me on the shelf.
Yeah, that's usually the right one. Sanyan
Roman.
I'll send everybody a link. Perfect. We'll add it to our library. And where can people find you? And maybe where can people kind of join and be led by you in their unveiling and walking their Dharma?
Well, if what I said resonates, then please, we have a free Facebook group. So come on, it's Kitty Talks on Facebook. And if you're interested in the Follow Your Highest Excitement, if you go to, it's basically doyourdharma.co.uk is the website. And I'm on Instagram as well, so people can come and check me out, Kitty_talks. But I think I truly believe that we all can create this heaven on earth. And, you know, I've been very fortunate in the time that I've been doing this work to take my life from nervous depression to now leading hundreds of people. And obviously, you know about the transformational organization I run as well, a complete 360, you know, and if I can do it, you can do it. You know, if you're unhappy and you're not where you feel your life should be, then just listen to that. It's a signpost. It's nothing more than that. But what is bad is if you don't listen to it and you ignore it, because the universe has a habit of getting us back on track, for sometimes the hard way.
Well, thank you so much, Kitty, for your time today. I truly enjoyed our conversation, and I'll put all this in the show notes, and doyourdharma.com.uk is where you can find more about Kitty, or Kitty Talks on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you. Any last parting words?
Just come and connect with me. I love to meet new people. And, you know, so actually there is a crucial bit of information which I didn't share. Like, the bigger reason that you need to do your Dharma is we're at a critical point in humanity's existence. And what the Vedas talk about is actually, if everybody did their Dharma, we would solve the problems that the world is facing at the moment. So as much as this is about creating our heaven on earth, it's also about a consciousness shift and about us basically saving the planet that we are living on. So no time to waste, people.
No time to waste. And what you're saying is saving the planet by making yourself happy and aligning with your Dharma and in getting into the flow. Love it. Thank you so much, Kitty. And everybody, go check out Kitty Talks on Facebook and Instagram. Bye.